Hello everybody, welcome back to the training of the M172. In this part, we're gonna see the embedded display of this controller. So the main topics will be the display tab, all the tools that we have in the display tab, okay, to configure and design our display. Then the ways that we have to navigate between the pages, and then the simulation. So let's start with a view of this software. So far, we have seen the configuration, programming, and commissioning. The configuration, we configure all the hardware and the variables EEPROM status and IO. In the programming, we make the code for the PLC. And now in the display, we're gonna configure the display embedded on the controller. Okay, now it doesn't matter if the M172 performance of Optimize has a display or not. Okay, the project is the same, and it doesn't matter if it have the display or not. You can create a project, okay, but it only be used for the controller that has a display. So let's see what we have here in this display tab. We have the display toolbar, okay, we're gonna see that later. We have the HMI resources, okay. You can see here that we have some pages, we have some global variables, procedures, and resources. This is the part that we're gonna design the HMI. We have the library tree options. We have the possibility to modify the properties of the objects. And then we have the HMI actions. These HMI actions will be linked to the keys in front of our controller. We also have the possibility to see the output windows related to com the, uh, the compilation, okay, about the code. We see here that we can have 0, 1 and 0 errors. And also we have the variables and parameters windows that we can see the internal variables, okay, along with the variables of the programming that we have already programmed in the configuration, sorry. The EEPROM and the status variables will be seen here in the HMI bars and parameters. And of course, we have the status bar. So let's start by linking the variables, okay, from the programming into display. First, we must define the EEPROM and status variables to be used in the programming and also to be used in display. So let's go back to our project. This is the project that we already been working with. So let's go to the configuration, check the variables. Okay, for the configuration, the temperature, and then the status. And now let's get access to the display part. This is the last modification that I've made regarding to the download the application via USB. So if we go to the HMI bars and parameters here, let me just, there we go. We can see the target variables that we have for the embedded display. If we are not able to see these HMI bars and parameters, we need to go View, Tool Windows, HMI bars and parameters. So if we click on Local Parameters, we can see the variables that we have defined in the configuration. So we can use it in our display in an easy way. Just drag and drop. We can define the control or progress control. Then we have the variable and some properties. This is for linking the variables from the configuration to the display. Continue with the presentation. Now it's time to see how we can edit the pages on our display. So let's go back to our project. I'm going to delete this and this. So I'm going to, there we go. So let's just zoom with this tool here, zoom in. And then if we click on the page, we can see these options. This will allow me to modify the grid. So I'm able to move the objects in an easy way instead of having less grid space, okay, to move the object. So one of the recommendations, everything to the minimum. Oops, there we go. So I can design freely the HMI. So we also have this title bar, automatically create the title in our HMI. So I'm going to introduce here caption, training, and 172. There we go. So we have now the title in our part of the display. Another useful thing is this page border, yes. Then we can select the border, the one that we want. We can just select here. We got flat, trace it, and socket. I'm going to use this one because I think it's pretty. That's all. So that is for this display part. Let's continue with the presentation. Okay, good. So now let's introduce some options like the test one. Project here. I'm gonna delete this. I'm gonna select the static, just the text. So we can see here some options, the background and text color. And then here is something important, the selection. We can change the background color, okay, when this object is selected. Okay, here in the text, we can select the text that we want to define. Welcome. Okay, just easy as that. We can change the font or bigger or not. And there is another possibility here. If we want the selection, if we want a variable to be selected or not, and also if we want to be visible, we can select an expression, okay, a condition to show the variable, the object, and then associate that variable, that object to a variable. I'll leave it visible, true. Now, if we continue with the presentation, okay, it's time to introduce you the bitmaps. So, we want to use some bitmaps images here. We just need to go to the resources, bitmaps, right click, import bitmaps. We need to go to the browse, and I have this by default, okay. We can change the name if we want, and then import. When we import the image, we can see here, we can just drag and drop, okay, or we can go to this insert new image. And when we select the object, we can select here bitmap and the list of bitmaps that we have. Another thing that we need to check here is this, browse all the files that we can import here. Okay, so now you can see here that we see color, but the HMI, the display doesn't have any color. So we are able to see this color only in the simulation. In the real target, we are not able to see that. So we're gonna leave this here. Good. So this is, so far we have seen the text, insert static, and the images that we can add by the bitmaps and then drag and drop into our project, or just selecting the insert new image. So let's continue with the presentation. Now we have already seen this. Something important with the pages. Okay, so I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna change the name of the page. Say welcome. And now, okay, yes, double click. What I want to do now is to save this welcome page as the main and then go to another page. So I need to create another page here. Page, right click, insert page. I'm going to use it as menu. Okay. Save as menu. Here is blank and we can say change this to have more resolution. Welcome. So now if I want to navigate to the welcome page to the menu, okay, I can use an action, okay, using the HMI. For example, I can associate, for example, the right button to open that page menu, okay, but I want to use no action. I want to use instead a button in the display. So let me just hide this. What we need to do is to insert new button. Put this here and change the resolution. Okay. Now we can see here that we have the test and selection text. I'm going to use a start. I'm going to write again a start. This is if we have multiple buttons, okay, each button will have a selection order. So let me just add another one. Button here, change this to fit. You can see here that this start has the selection 1 and this empty button has the selection 2. So how we can select this button? Okay, it's very simple. In the HMI actions, we have the keys linking to an action previous field and next field. So if this has number 1, when we press the down key, we're going to select the next object. And when we press the up, we're going to select this one. So this is how we can select objects in the display. So this is important too. When the selection order is in 1, we're going to see this text. But when we change to this object, we're going to see this one, which that is the main reason that you need to write in both fields. But in this case, I'm going to delete this and just leave a start. So we have that. We can see here that we are able to change the color, always the opposite, when we are selected and when we are not selected the object. We have the visible, the selection, the transparency, and then we have actions. In the actions, I'm gonna choose open page to go from welcome to the menu. So I'm gonna write menu. Good. That's all to go for this one to the menu. But there is some configurations to do this. We have page model as hierarchical and flat. If we want to use like a pop-up to close one page and then open the other one and so on, we need to use hierarchical. But if we are used to Visual Designer, for example, that we can freely navigate between the pages, open page and then go to another one, I recommend you to use flat. And then we need to select the initial page. Okay, good. I'm gonna save this. So far we have the text, the button, and the image. Let's proceed with the presentation so I don't miss anything. I have created page, the other page, good. The properties, this is what I told you before, the hierarchical and the flat. Okay, good. And then selection, so far so good. Action, menu, good. This is what we told you before regarding the colors when we are selection. Okay, the border and the selection border to be different. Okay, so we can easily identify what we are selected. I have already explained the actions. Okay, that we have also. I didn't explain this part, but we have local actions and global action. Local is only for that page, and then we have the global actions that for all the pages. So if we want to use as navigate from one page to another only, we can select local and then, for example, go to right to the next page or left to the to the previous page. Okay, but always open page and the name. And also we have the possibility to differentiate between the actions with the long action. Okay, so let's just drop some variables. As we see before, let's drop the configuration of the temperature. Okay, so we can identify how is the parameters that we need to configure here. So I'm gonna drag and drop the variable, edit control. Good. See here that we have the number of characters, the format, and let's type here format. Oops. There we go. So when we click on format in this button, we can see here that we can easily configure how we want to visualize this variable. We'll assign and fill with zeros. Okay, good. I'm gonna select just two, it's good. Okay, so I need to adjust this. There we go. And we can do this. For example, temperature set point. Okay, here we can use our imagination to design the HMI part. We have already seen this. Okay, perfect. Okay, I forgot this part. So imagine that instead of using drag and drop, just as we saw. We need to add a new variable. Okay, insert new edit. Here, this empty variable. So what we need to do is to go to variable. Just check again. There we go. So we need to select variable. Here we can see all the variables that we have. See that all the variables related to the configuration that we already have done are at local parameter. Okay, so if we look for R temperature, we can see here. Okay, if we go again, fill with 0, test, there we go. We can modify it like this. I'm gonna copy this and modify hysteresis. Good, so we have two ways. By drag and drop for this menu, okay, for this bar, or just the empty one from this insert new object. Okay, let me see what else is something missing. I have already explained the part of the selection. Okay, this is something very good. It's related to the enums. This part I have taken from the international training. So what we need to do is this enum is like we saw previously in the configuration. In enums, when we create an enum, we can link an integer value to a string. Okay, so in this case, what we're gonna do, change this. We need to go to resources, enumeration, add new. I'm gonna change the name, enum fail. Okay, so double click on it and add this. When it's 0, I want to see off, and when it's 1, on. This is going to be related to the alarm that we have. So let's go back to the menu. We have this variable, indication for alarm. I'm going to drag and drop it here. Edit control, good. We're going to select this, change, and here we can see enumerative. I want to select enumerative. You want to see this, don't be scared. Okay, we just need to compile. So I'm going to compile this part with this button. See the output. It's compiling. Okay. Gonna close this window. We're gonna open again. We can see here that instead of seeing the numeric, we have the enum active. Okay. Let's proceed on the presentation. Okay, we have the enum. This, don't be scared about this part. We just need to compile everything, compile all. We see. So now it's your turn to create this navigation is an example, but try to move all the variables from the PLC part that we have to control everything to the display. This is a suggestion. We already have this part, but I also created this, the menu, okay, and then a navigation to go to the configuration of the temperature for the local. And we have all this, okay. This is a suggestion. And in order to see this, I go back. We have 0 errors. So we need to simulate this. but we have already created one instance. I'm going to use the same instance. Good. I'm going to load the application. Okay, let me just, before doing that, let me show you the screen of the controller. Okay, you can see here that empty. So you're going to download the application, the simulation. Okay, let's see, it's complete. Now we can see here that we have the application. We can use buttons. Let's go OK. And this is the navigation. As you can see here, this one has the selection order 1, the 2, and the 3. Okay, so now it's your turn to create your display and then create a simulation just to double check this and then download it to your controller. And the way to download it to your controller is easy. We just need to configure in let me just check here. Communication in the project, communication settings, select how do you want to perform the download. If you want to use USB, activate, OK, check the comforts, and then connect. Need to connect first. Where is it? Here. I always forgot too many windows. So we need to connect. I want to use this one. We need to check here. For example, I need to plug the controller in my case. Okay. Okay, it's connected. Properties, comfort. Okay. Connect. We can go to the display part again and then download to the HMI. And we can only download this part and not the programming part. Or the other solution would be to download everything to the controller. And then they will be finished. So I leave you to do this part. I'm going to complete my part so we can continue in the next module with the training. And if you have any more questions or some doubts or problems with the exercise, just contact us, okay? And we will assist you.